Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for this last 10 minutes. And Doc posed a pretty good question, and I think that he posed it from this this attitude that I don't know that you share. I'm not going to speak for you, but I think a lot of people share that when I make this appeal for unity, when I come on the air and say we need to work together, let's meet at the center of the bridge. Come on, let's all get together and make this country work. What I hear a lot from both sides, more so from the right, because I think the right is the angrier side. The liberals are pretty angry, but I think the right is more angry about how politics has been working or not working as far as they see it, is that they say there isn't anything to compromise over. There are no political principles that we share with the left that we can either admit to ourselves that we share with them, or that if we give in a little bit is going to help anybody, that it's going to make anything work for anyone. And I find that to be a mythologized view of how compromise can benefit. And you asked me about some things in compromise. I think one issue, the biggest central issue that we've seen bipartisan support on, and that we've seen both sides want to tackle in maybe not exactly similar ways, but close, is criminal justice reform. Both sides, you saw the Koch brothers have come out significantly for criminal justice reform. You saw that was a big feature of Rand Paul's failed campaign. You've heard that from Donald Trump. You've heard that especially for Bernie Sanders attacking Hillary and Bill's crime bill that Bernie, I think, voted for when he was in the House. And that's been a key issue on both sides, that we need to do something about mass incarceration. We need to do something about the racial disparity of folks. And you've seen that being admitted. Now, there might be different ways to get there, but that's a principle that both sides have tended to agree on. Number two, another thing is entitlement reform. You've seen Democrats come out and say, hey, look, we're not going to let you privatize things. We don't want that. We don't think that's the way to go. But there are ways that we can adjust Social Security, that we can adjust Medicare and Medicaid to work for more people and to be fiscally solvent, that I think that appeal to other Republicans who want to maintain that older voter base into the future. The older you get, the more Social Security draw. You see Republicans come out and say, we're going to defend Social Security. Don't let these liberals spend it all on other stuff. So I think entitlement reform and reforming the tax code is something that Democrats and Republicans have talked about for the last couple of years as something they can get together on. They may have different ways of doing it, but that's a principle that they agree on. Another thing I think that Republicans and Democrats have expressed an interest on is the immigration issue. They both understand that there's a problem. They both understand that there are ways to fix it. What the disagreement bogs down on is not that we need to do something about immigration. You even saw Marco Rubio talk about that before he had to walk it back because the right hates the idea of amnesty. Fair enough. But even Ted Cruz was for amnesty before he was against it, technically. Although don't let anybody from his campaign, I don't want Photoshop pictures of you and I shaking hands anywhere across the country.
That'd be awful.
That there are ways to address the immigration issue in this country. They agree on the principle of it, but they don't agree. They get bogged down in this fight over what to do first. Democrats think that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Republicans think that securing the border is so important that we have to address that first. Otherwise, we're not going to give you anything. So those are three significant and income inequality would be the fourth one. Income inequality. There are four significant issues that both sides in this campaign are talking about, but because it's not a general election yet, we don't have anybody talking about how they're going to agree. But because the country is so interested, rather than working things out, then who wins or who loses, that's where where it all falls apart. I mean, I think those are four issues that we can agree on.
Well, we can agree that everything needs to be reformed. We can agree on all this stuff. The devil's in the details. When you start talking about, well, geez, the right doesn't want amnesty, I don't believe in globalism. I don't think that's something that's good. You see what happens in Europe. I mean, they got overrun. Pretty soon, Germany's talking about throwing everybody out. Well, you have to have your borders. They have to be secure. People have to follow your laws. And if they don't follow your laws, they shouldn't be granted, citizenship and amnesty and the rest of it. The problem is where are you willing to compromise? Is the left willing to compromise on amnesty? Well, at this point, no. Neither side's willing to compromise. We can agree that a lot of different things need to be done, but the problem is the devil's in the details. They're not going to get anybody to agree to blanket amnesty because we've already done that under Reagan. The other thing, excuse me, I had a little bit of an itch. The other thing is you have to keep in mind old conservative Republicans like me remember getting shafted time and time again after Reagan would try to make some kind of deal. The third thing, and just on this immigration thing, I want to make it clear it's Republicans' fault. This whole thing that's set up now is a mess that the Republicans created back in the mid-'80s. There's no other way around it. So there's all kinds of things we can get together on, but the problem is when you have, like Medicare, if you have a Republican say, well, hold on, I think we can do a couple of different things, all you have are the Democrats going, they're wanting to take your Medicare. That's all you hear. And the Republicans, even Paul Ryan went, hold on, this is a pretty good deal. Even the Democrats wanted it on one of his Medicare reform packages, and they excoriated him. So he went, well, all right, I tried. So you have a group of people whose only goal, as stated by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is to accumulate and keep accumulating more and more power. It's difficult to negotiate with a side that you can't trust historically for not keeping their side of the bargain. So that would be my rebuttal to that. I agree with you. There's a ton of things we can agree on. We've sat there and said, well, it's too bad our people can't get together and talk like we talk because we come up with a lot of good solutions. But the problem is when you have a media whose goal is to make a zoo out of what the Republicans do, it's hard to get any traction, have anybody talk, and that would be my thing, So where are you willing to compromise on amnesty? What if we said, all right, we'll make a guest worker program, but nobody has amnesty? Is that something the left could go with?
I have no idea. I'm just you asked me things that we could compromise on. I presented examples of things that work, and the idea, and this is what you see a lot, is ask somebody for a solution, and then rather than give it a fair hearing, I know we're almost out of time, but rather than give it a fair hearing, immediately, and this is what happens with my clients all the time. So, how am I supposed to get out of these charges? Well, you have to do these 3 things. Yeah, but, and then rather than address it, they just knock it down out of hand. Yeah, and you see a lot of that in these political debates where, like, I'm not saying that deeply held principles aren't important. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if we were to sit and honestly talk about the core principle of a particular issue, so say for example, so illegal the immigration issue, for example, a core principle that families shouldn't be torn apart. That's a core principle that both sides agree. And then we start talking, well, how can we make that principle a reality? And I'm telling you that if we approached it from that sort of like center out, not political center, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Center out that way, that would be rather than
that
going
would be
at
a place to start.
Outward in.
Now, I got one quick question. You got about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
How culpable do you think the media is in driving the sides apart? I mean, social media.
Oh, man, that's a good question.
I mean, I 50%, 100%.
I don't know how to answer that because I don't know that, because the media isn't a thing. Right, it's not a singular entity.
No,
and so it's hard to say. I think that social media has, for all the good social media has done in helping organize folks, it has contributed to. I mean, where it's too new. I feel like we're not mature enough with how we use social media as a country, especially for political things. It's too easy to get incensed. It's too easy to take things personally. It's too easy to believe false stuff on social media. You've heard me rail about this all the time, that I love how it's democratized connection and information. I hate how it's turned us into these brain-dead high school savages.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. That is our show for today. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't do what we like to do. Next week, we may, because I saw a couple of things on Facebook while we're here, Waukee is going to start reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. We may talk about that a little bit next week. There's a couple of other things that are going on that's interesting, like the privatization of the Medicaid program here in Iowa and the failures that has.
And we should probably try and check in with our good friend Ed Fallon about his Bakken oil hearings that he's been attending.
Oh yeah,
for the last month or so.
We should. Is he going to come on next week? Or?
Well, we need to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, we're looking forward to having an exciting show next week. Thanks everybody tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.